One of the things I've heard you say over and over, really, for probably at least a decade now, is the idea that your capacity to learn determines your capacity for leadership. I don't know if I'm getting the quote exactly right, but
that's close enough.
Talk to us a little bit about the importance of learning, why people do it, why people neglect it, those sorts of things.
Well, let me say, I don't know if I'm qualified to say why people don't, but let me tell you why I do. Over 40 years ago, like I was a young pup over 40 years ago. And I had a leader that explained that to me. And here's the way he positioned it. He said, if you want more influence, if you want more opportunity, if you want more impact, he said, there's only one path. It's lifelong learning. He said, that's it. And out of that conversation came the phrase, your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. And so I made a choice as a young person. I guess I might technically have been leading one or two people at the time, but I probably wasn't qualified to be a leader at the time. But I made the choice. I said, oh, is that how the world works? Didn't know that. And I made a choice to embrace lifelong learning. Now, someone challenged me on that one day. They said, well, that's probably easy for you. And I said, well, tell me why you would say that. And they said, well, I'm assuming that learner is one of your strengths. Some of your audience will be familiar with strengths finders and this, that, and the other. And I said, well, that's interesting because I don't think learner is in my top 25.
Wow.
And they said, that's odd. I said, why is it odd? They said, well, you act like a learner. And I said, well, I made a choice because I want more opportunity. I want more influence. I want more impact. And I was convinced at a young age, if that's the path, that's what I'm going to do. My parents wish I'd have made that decision much earlier because I was an awful student. But now I've committed to lifelong learning. So I'd much rather listen to the radio in the car than a podcast or a book. Most days I'm going to listen to a podcast or a book. Well, why would you do that? Because I made a choice, a strategic decision, because when I learn, it better positions me to add value to others. And so that's why I do it. I don't know why people would choose not to. I mean, that's their choice. But I think if they make that choice, they've chosen to limit their influence, their impact, and their opportunity. Last thought on that. We talked about this in the last book. People have asked me on and off for years if there is a leadership fountain of youth. I don't know if you've ever gotten that question. And what I used to say is, I hope so, because I want to add value to my last breath. Now I say absolutely, and it's curiosity. That's how leaders can maintain relevance for today and vitality for tomorrow, is if they'll keep learning, And so I think it's the best game in town that too many people have missed.
Interesting. Now, as you're obviously, we live in a world of infinite opportunities now for learning. We've got obviously books, and we've got audio books, we've got podcasts, with conferences and webinars and these sorts of things. What is your preferred method of continuous learning?
Well, it's actually a combination of those things, but let me add one to your list, something that I didn't do necessarily strategically, but it's been huge for me, is I started a group of men 25 years ago to study leadership. And we've been meeting twice a month for 25 years.
Wow.
And there are 10 of us. And I think 6 of the group were in the original group from 25 years ago. And so we study leadership, life on life, talk about our situation, talk about our circumstances. We consume content virtually every time we meet. And for me, that's been a piece of the puzzle, and all the other things you mentioned.
Fantastic.